My name is Arpan Banerjee. I'm a research scholar at the Department of East Asian Studies, University of Delhi, and academic counselor at IGNOU. And I've been teaching you the paper Administrative System at State and District Level. So I welcome you all to my learning session. And let us continue from where we left off in the last lecture. So we have been studying the paper Administrative System at State and District Levels, the code of which is BPSC 134. And in this paper, we have so far covered the first unit, which was regarding the evolution of administration at the district and provincial levels. In that, we studied three phases. That is the evolution of administration in the ancient India, under the Mauryas and the Guptas, and afterwards, we studied evolution of administration at the state and district level in medieval India, as part of which we analyzed the Mughal administrative apparatus. And afterwards, we studied how the administrative setup was there during the British era and how there was continuity and change in post-independent India, that is post-1947. So all these things we had done in the first block. And in the second block, we have been doing 5 units here. In the second block, we have discussed the constitutional profile of state administration, as well as the organization and functions of the state secretariat. We have also discussed the pattern of relationship between the secretariat and the directorates. That we have discussed in detail. And we have also discussed about the state services, including the State Public Service Commission. In the last class, we had discussed about it, as well as the State Planning Board. So these are the 6 units that we have so far covered. And in today's class, we are going to discuss the 7th unit of our second block, that is the State Finance Commission. So that we are going to discuss today, the State Finance Commission, which forms the unit 7 of our second block. And so let us begin. So the State Finance Commission, that is the topic that we are going to discuss today. In a federal setup, as we know that we are a federal setup, although the federalism is not truly federal, we are a quasi-federal setup. That is, the center has more powers vis-a-vis the states. So in a federal setup like ours, along with the balancing of functions and powers, there is another crucial issue that is encountered. That is regarding the distribution of financial resources between the union and the other units of government. So as we all know that the local bodies, they have very meager resources of their own, and therefore they are dependent on the state government or the provincial and central government for devolution of funds. So financial autonomy is an issue which local governments have always faced. So we have always talked about decentralization. But when it comes to financial decentralization or financial autonomy, we have always observed that local bodies, they are never really financially autonomous. And they have very meager resources of their own. And they are always dependent on the provincial and central governments for devolution of funds. Hence, it has been observed that these local bodies, they rely more on fiscal transfers from the state government. And this fiscal transfer, on which these local bodies rely, they are in different forms. Now, what are some of the forms of these fiscal transfers? They are in the form of shared taxes or grants in aid. So these are the different forms of fiscal transfers on which the local bodies are dependent, because they have very meager financial resources on their own. And it is upon the state government only that how much devolution they want to make, how much devolution of funds, or how much financial autonomy they want to give to the local bodies. So they are basically at the mercy of the state government, these local bodies. So that is a huge issue. So in order to tackle that, in order to solve this issue, and in order to help the local bodies attain a degree of financial autonomy, the State Finance Commission was formed. And so, as we were talking about some of the shared taxes and grants on which these local bodies are dependent, and they get them from the provincial as well as the central governments, these taxes, they're generally shared on the basis of the recommendations of the State Finance Commission of a particular state. So they are shared between the local bodies and the state government or the provincial government. And so the divisible pool of revenue, the entire revenue of a state, that gets shared between the local bodies and the provincial government or state government, and this is done as per the recommendations of the State Finance Commission of a particular state. So in addition to this tax sharing, the State Finance Commission, it is also assigned the task, the State Finance Commissions, they have to review the financial position of the local bodies, that is the urban local bodies and the rural local bodies, the municipalities, the municipal corporations, as well as the Panchayati Raj institutions. And after reviewing the financial position of local bodies, the State Finance Commission has also performs the task of recommending the assignment of various taxes, duties, fees, as well as grants in aid that are to be given to the local bodies by the state government. And from where is it to be given? It is to be given from the consolidated fund of the states. So every state has a consolidated fund of its own, just like the central, at the union we have a consolidated fund of India. Similarly, so the consolidated fund of India is mentioned in Article 266 of the Constitution of India, along with the consolidated fund of states as well. So each state has a consolidated fund of its own, and it is from this consolidated fund. So all the revenue, all the money a state generates from different sources of revenue, from the taxes it collects, from the levies it collects. So all that money, it goes to the consolidated fund of a particular state, just like at the union also we have a consolidated fund. So it is from this consolidated fund that the state government has to give certain grants in aid to the local bodies. And also the state government, as per the recommendation of the State Finance Commission, also has to give the local bodies certain powers to collect taxes, duties, and fees. So it is mentioned in the 73rd and 74th Amendment. There is an entire list of items from which, on which the local bodies can be given the right to levy, the power to levy taxes, duties, and fees. So this is a very important task by the State Finance Commission at the provincial level. And the State Finance Commission, it also works in tandem with the Central Finance Commission. So the constitution of the State Finance Commission, just like the Central Finance Commission, it takes place at a regular interval of 5 years, and it is mandatory for all states of India. It is a mandatory requirement for all the states in India, all the 28 states, to constitute a State Finance Commission after every 5 years. So, but what we observe, what we have been observing, so this State Finance Commission, it has been in existence since 1992, right? When the 73rd and 74th Amendment came into being, when they were enacted, and the local bodies, that is the rural local bodies, the Panchayati Raj institutions, and the urban local bodies, they were given constitutional status. So despite that, despite 3 decades, so we have the State Finance Commission in existence for the last 3 decades, more than that. Despite the elaborate and detailed constitutional provisions for the division of financial resources between the union and the states, what we have observed is that the Indian states, they face the problem of a continuous gap between their own resources and the expenditure pattern that they have. So there is a gap, and that gap is increasing. So a gap. Now, what is this gap? It is between the resources that they have and the expenditure that they have to spend. So that this gap is increasing day after day, and that is why states are having to borrow more. And in order to borrow, also states, if they have some outstanding, payment to be made to the central government, then they have to take the permission of the central government as per Article 293, Clause 3. If the state governments want to borrow more and they already have some outstanding money which they haven't yet paid to the central government, then they have to take the permission of the central government. And in case of India, all states have some outstanding amount to the central government that they owe to the central of the state governments, that is really under the scanner, and that is decreasing day after day. And so if you see, the after the enactment of the GST, the state governments, they also the amount of taxes that they could levy, that also decreased drastically, because the taxation system was simplified, and now there is only a CGST and an SGST. And that is why, to compensate those states which lost on tax revenue, the union government decided to give them certain concessions, certain compensations for coming 5 years. So that is what the union government decided. So, however, we have been observing, it is a continuous phenomena for the last 3 decades, that there is a continuous gap between the resources that states have at their disposal and their expenditure pattern. So, and this gap is increasing day after day. And with this view, our constitutional makers, they were very cautious on this account. And that is why they provided for a finance commission at the union level under Article 280. And this was done, the finance commission was created to recommend mainly the financial transfers from the union to the states. So the main purpose of financial transfers from the union to the state was to reduce vertical as well as horizontal fiscal imbalance. So vertical imbalance is what takes the fiscal imbalance that is there between the union and the state. And horizontal imbalance or horizontal fiscal imbalance refers to those fiscal imbalances which are there between different states, between 2 or more states. That is horizontal fiscal imbalance, and vertical fiscal imbalance is the fiscal imbalance that exists between the union and the state. So in order to address them, in order to reduce them, the Finance Commission under Article 280 was created. And the main task that it was entrusted with was to recommend financial transfers from union to the states. And the Finance Commission at the union level also is required to be constituted after the expiry of every 5 years. And the responsibilities that are to be assigned to this commission, they are mentioned in the Constitution of India, and they are provided in Article 280, Clause 3. So let us see what are the recommendations that the Finance Commission makes to the President. So the Finance Commission, it makes recommendations to the President of India regarding the following things. The first thing regarding which the Finance Commission, it makes recommendations to the President of India, it is regarding the distribution between the union and the states of the net proceeds of taxes, and which are to be divided between the union and the states. And also it makes recommendations regarding the allocation between the states of the respective shares of these proceeds. And also the Finance Commission does another important thing, that is it decides the principles that should govern the quantum of grants in aid that is to be given to the states out of the Consolidated Fund of India. And it also makes recommendations regarding any other matter that is referred to it by the President of India in the interest of maintaining sound finance. And that is why at the state level, Also, there was a desire to have a similar arrangement so that the local bodies also can get some fiscal autonomy. And that is why the state finance commissions came into being. So the reforms in the sphere of decentralized government that was empowering people through an effective local government, which assumed a lot of significance in the early 1990s after the 73rd and 74th Amendment that we have discussed. So, as part of them, the State Finance Commission was also created in order to give local governments, that is, the urban local bodies and the rural local bodies, more fiscal autonomy. And besides other measures and reforms, the devolution of financial resources to these local bodies, it was ensured through the periodic constitution of State Finance Commission under the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments. We have already discussed that. Now, what happened after the passage of the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment acts? So the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act gave constitutional status to the rural local bodies, that is the Panchayati Raj institutions, and the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, it gave constitutional recognition to the urban local bodies, that is the municipal corporations or the municipalities and the town area committees. So these two very important constitutional was changed in the following manner. So we have already discussed the second function of the Finance Commission. In the case of the after the 73rd and 74th Amendment Acts were changed, they made an amendment to the second function of the Finance Commission. Now, what was that amendment? That amendment was to make as to the measures that are needed to augment or increase or enhance the fund of a state, so that in order to supplement the resources of the panchayats and the municipalities in the state on the basis of the recommendations made by the Finance Commission of the particular state. So that was added and that was amended. Earlier, it was only recommendations that had to be made for the devolution of funds from the union to the states. Now, the local bodies, the municipalities, they were also brought in. So now the Finance Commission, the Union Finance Commission, it has to make recommendations, which and these recommendations should be such that they augment the funds of a state so that the state can then devolve that fund to the panchayats and the municipalities. So regarding this also, how much devolution has to be made to the panchayats and the municipalities? The Union Finance Commission also gives recommendations now to the state government. So it is not only the duty of the State Finance Commission, but also the duty of the Union Finance Commission, the Central Finance Commission also, to look after, to ensure the fiscal autonomy of states. So now let us discuss the origin and significance of the State Finance Commission. So local bodies, rural as well as urban, they have been accepted in India because it is believed that they have a great role in the social, economic and political development in our country. So decentralization, it has always been emphasized. In fact, Mahatma Gandhiji, he also gave a lot of emphasis on decentralization. And if you see Article 40 of our Constitution, which is a part of the directive principles of state policies, and it is a Gandhian principle. So it talks about the creation of Panchayati Raj institutions and giving them autonomy. The local bodies were always held in were always considered of great importance, and they were held in great esteem as well. So, however, what we see that on account of various reasons, such as rapid population growth, rapid urbanization, increasing poverty, as well as lack of proper devolution of financial resources that we have already discussed, the local governments, they have been subjected to heavy financial strains. And these local bodies, as we have discussed, they are heavily dependent on the provincial governments or the state governments when it comes to grants. In this context, the sources of revenue that are assigned to the local bodies, they are not sufficient. They are insufficient. So in order to rectify these shortcomings and check this financial imbalance, a number of suggestions have been put forward by various commissions. So as we know that before the 73rd and 74th Amendment came into being, there were several commissions that were constituted in order to recommend measures for giving constitutional status to the rural, local and urban local bodies. Some of them were the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee, the Ashok Mehta Committee. These were some of the committees that were constituted. So a number of suggestions have been made and put forward by various commissions and committees. One of the important suggestions has been to set up a finance commission for every state on the pattern of the Central Finance Commission. And it was suggested by these commissions that on the pattern at the national level, there should also be a system of appointment of a state finance commission. Now, what would be the function of the State Finance Commission? The function of the State Finance Commission would be to recommend a pattern of distribution between the provincial government and the local bodies, the urban and rural local bodies. So the 74th Constitutional Amendment, which was regarding the urban local bodies, stated in its objectives that in many states, local bodies, they have become very weak and ineffective on account of a variety of reasons. Now, what were these reasons that the 74th Amendment mentioned in its objectives? These reasons were the failure of regular elections, as well as prolonged suppression and prolonged supersession and inadequate devolution of powers and functions to the local bodies by the provincial governments. This was stated by the 74th Constitutional Amendment in its objective. So as a result, the 74th Amendment says that urban local bodies are not able to perform effectively as the vibrant democratic units of self-government. So they were created, they were envisaged to be vibrant democratic units of self-government. However, because of certain reasons, that is failure to hold regular elections and prolonged superstition and inadequate devolution of powers and functions, these urban local bodies are not able to perform effectively. They are not able to perform their constitutional duties also. So this was mentioned in the 74th Amendment Act. And it also added that the 74th Amendment Act, it also said that it is considered necessary that provisions relating to local bodies, they are incorporated in the Constitution of India. And particularly with regard to the functions and financial powers, taxation powers, as well as arrangement for revenue sharing. So accordingly, what we see that the necessary provisions were added, and the long-standing demand was accepted in the early 1990s, and it became a part of the constitutional amendments that took place in 1992, the 73rd and the 74th Constitutional Amendment. And the passage of these two very important amendments, which proved to be a watershed for Indian democracy, that was a big milestone in the history of independent India. And these amendments have incorporated wide-ranging provisions for dealing with the electoral processes of the local bodies, the finances, the planning mechanisms, and besides these, also the broader composition and powers of the local bodies. So an important aspect of these amendments that is pertaining to the finances of the local bodies. That is what we are discussing here. We are discussing the State Finance Commission. So the finances of the local bodies is a very important aspect of these two amendments. And these two amendment acts, they provided for setting up of a State Finance Commission in each state. So in order to meet the constitutional amendments under Article 243I and 243Y that were inserted by the 73rd and 74th Amendments of the Constitution, the state assemblies, they passed the legislation to set up Finance Commission. And since 1993, what we have been observing is that the respective states, they have been setting up their respective finance commission for local bodies at the expiry of every 5 years. So now let us discuss the composition of the state finance commissions. So most of the states, they have set up 4 to 5 finance commissions till the year 2019. So it is to be set up after every 5 years, and till 2019 we observed that 4 to 5 finance commissions have been set up by most of the states, and the state finance commission is appointed at the expiry of every 5 years. However, there is no fixed, and it ceases to exist as soon as it submits its report. And the experience of most states that regarding the state finance commission, it indicates that a state finance commission, it generally works for a period of 1 to 1.5 years, not beyond that. And in every state, the appointment of a state finance commission takes place on the basis of the announcement that is made by the governor of that particular state. And also it comes into existence from the very date of assuming of charge by its chairman and members. And as far as the composition of the finance commission is concerned, there is no uniformity that we can observe in states, and not much variation also. It consists of a chairman and a few members, and in some states their strength is specified by the state legislation. For example, if you talk about Punjab, the Finance Commission of Punjab, the State Finance Commission there, it consists of a chairman and 4 other members. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu, the State Finance Commission, it consists of 1 chairman and 4 members. If we talk about Haryana, the 3rd Finance Commission that has been constituted in Haryana, it comprised of 1 chairman and 3 members. Whereas the 5th Finance Commission of Haryana, it consisted of 7 members, including 1 chairman and 1 member secretary. So now let us see some of the qualifications for chairman or for becoming the chairman or member of these state finance commissions. Now, some of the states, they've clearly specified the qualifications or conditions for the appointment of chairman and members of state finance commissions, while in other states we see that there is no such specification. Now let us see what is the system of what is the qualification for to be appointed a member or chairman of the State Finance Commission in the state of Punjab. So in the state of Punjab, the person, in order to be appointed as a chairman of the Finance Commission, is required to have an experience in public affairs, and the person to be appointed as members are required to have the qualifications. That is, they are required to have special knowledge and experience in economic and financial matters regarding the state of Punjab. Also, they are required to have special knowledge and experience in economic and financial matters regarding the municipalities. And they are also required to have appointing a person as a chairman. The governor has to satisfy himself that the person to be appointed has no financial or any other interest that is likely to affect prejudicially his or her functions as chairman or member of the State Finance Commission. So these are some of the qualifications, and after the appointment of the chairman as well as members of the State Finance Commission, the governor also has to satisfy herself from time to time with respect to the chairman and members of the Finance Commission. So the governor has to ensure that they may have no financial or any interest that would prejudicially affect their function as chairman or members of these State Finance Commission. And that is why, in order to ensure this, the governor may require the chairman or members of Finance Commission to furnish the information that the governor considers necessary, with a view to satisfy herself as to whether these chairmen or members, they have any such interests or not, whether those interests could prejudicially affect their duties as chairman or members of State Finance Commission. Now let us see what is the procedure for disqualification from a State Finance Commission. So a person can be disqualified as a member or chairman of State Finance Commission if he or she is of an unsound mind, or is an undercharged insolvent, or has been convicted of any offense which involves a moral turpitude, or has such financial or other interests that are likely to affect, as we have already discussed, that are likely to prejudicially affect her functions as members of State Finance Commission. Now, regarding the term of these members of State Finance Commission, every member of the State Finance Commission, it holds office for such period as may be specified in the order of the governor who appoints them, but they are eligible for reappointment provided that they, by a letter addressed to the governor, resign their office at any time prior to the period specified in their appointment letter. Now, regarding their conditions of service, the chairman and members of the State Finance Commissions, they may render whole-time or part-time service to the State Finance Commission, and the governor has to specify that whether they are rendering whole-time or part-time service, and they are paid a fees or salary and allowance also by the state government. So that is prescribed by the state government. So now let us see some of the functions and powers of the State Finance Commission. That the State Finance Commission, they are constituted at the state level to review the financial position of panchayats and municipalities and accordingly make recommendations. And in every state, a notification is issued every time for appointment of State Finance Commission, and it carries the terms of reference also. So as we can see in the state of Tamil Nadu also it is issued, and the State Finance Commission in its notification in 2004 while instituting the State Finance in the state of Tamil Nadu, it said that the State Finance Commission, it shall study and review the financial position of the rural and urban local bodies. So that is one of the functions that was entrusted to the State Finance Commission in the state of Tamil Nadu. Now, what were these rural and urban local bodies? They were the village panchayats, the panchayat union councils, the district panchayats, the municipalities, and municipal corporations. And after studying and reviewing the financial position of these bodies, the State Finance Commission shall make recommendations regarding the matters which are mentioned below. Now, what are the matters? As we have seen, the functions are the same. That are performed by the Central Finance Commission. So the first matter is regarding the principle that should govern the distribution of revenues and net proceeds of taxes between the state and the local bodies, and also which duties and which taxation powers are to be granted to the local bodies. That is also determined by the State Finance Commission. And which duties, which taxes, which tolls, and which fees are to be given to the state government, and the power to collect which taxes or which duties or which tolls mentioned in the 73rd Amendment. So that is decided by the Central State Finance Commission. And then, what we see that the State Finance Commission only makes recommendations. It is not mandatory. So it is only it is only an advisory body. So it is not compulsory for the state governments to accept 100% of their recommendations. No, the state government may reject some of the recommendations as well. So despite the State Finance Commissions in almost all the states making recommendations to grant more fiscal powers to the local bodies, what we observe that the state governments, they are reluctant to do that, because if they do that, then the dependency of the local bodies on the state governments, that would decrease, and the state governments do not want that. That is why the recommendations of the State Finance Commissions, because those recommendations are not binding by any means. But the State Finance Commission, just like the Central Finance Commission, it makes the recommendation regarding which taxation powers should be granted to the local bodies, and how much grants in aid should be given to the local bodies from the constant fund of the state. And also, it makes recommendations regarding the measures that are needed to improve the financial position of the local bodies. And the Third Finance Commission in Tamil Nadu, if we see, as well as the subsequent commissions, they were asked to go further in addition to the tasks that are listed above that we have already discussed. And in some states, the notifications that are issued while the Finance Commission is being established, they carry some more details regarding the functions and duties that are assigned to the State Finance Commission. So, in the state of Tamil Nadu, the commission was asked to suggest the measures that were required to bring about greater efficiency in functioning of local bodies, and also in the mobilization and use of the resources of local bodies. So, local self-government could be provided to the people, and also to suggest measures on demarcation of functions of the state government vis-a-vis the local bodies. And also, the State Finance Commission, it may be asked to suggest measures that are required to improve financial position of the local bodies that we have discussed, and also how the local bodies can reduce the level of debt, pension, as well as interest payment liabilities. So these are the things that the State Finance Commission is asked to do. And also, in many states, a State Finance Commission is asked to draw a monitorable fiscal reform program that is aimed at the reduction of revenue deficit of these local bodies. And also, it is in many states, State Finance Commissions, they are asked to provide a scheme that would provide an incentive to the local bodies within the ambit of devolution mechanism, and which would then further enhance their progress in implementing these programs, the welfare programs that they implement. So these are some of the things that the State Finance Commission has been asked to do. And also, the State Finance Commission from time to time has been asked to suggest measures for possible new avenues for tapping resources in rural and urban local bodies, keeping in view the local body tax structure. And also, in many states, the state suggests measures after the review of the present system for assessing the accountability of these local bodies. So, not only to augment their finance, also recommend measures to assess the accountability of these local bodies in utilizing these resources that are raised or received from the state and central government, so that corruption can be reduced. And also suggesting measures for the effective and efficient maintenance of local body accounts and databases as well. So that is also a very important function that the State Finance Commission performs. And also it suggests measures to improve the administrative arrangements that are already made by the government consequent to the reclassification of town panchayats. And the Commission also suggests the reclassification of other local bodies also, keeping in view their present status and their reorganization exercise. So, and in making all these recommendations, the Commission has to keep in view the resources of the state government and the demands thereon, as well as the expenditure of the state on the person and debt servicing of the local bodies. So these things the State Finance Commission has to keep in mind. It also emphasizes and it also recommends. It also makes recommendations regarding the following things. That is regarding classification of rural and urban local bodies as per the guidelines of the Government of India. And also, as we have already discussed, also regarding the existing level of devolution and other resource transfer from the state and central governments to the provincial, and that include the award and recommendations of the Central Finance Commission to the local bodies and their adequacy. Central Finance Commission, it provides certain incentives to state governments that local governments. Then the Central Finance Commission may increase their borrowing limit. So if a state devolves more funds to the local government, to its local bodies, then the Central Finance Commission may increase its borrowing limit, say from 2% of its GSDP to 3% of the GSDP of that state. So these are some of the incentives that the Central Finance Commission regarding the devolution of finances governments, and also the recommendations of the state finance commission. The state government has to present an action taken report in the assembly, in the state legislative assembly. It has to be amended. It has to be tabled in the state legislature. If it's a bicameral legislature, then it has to be tabled in both the houses, and if it's a unicameral legislature, then it has to be tabled in the legislative assembly of the state. And in the recommendations of the State Finance Commission, it has accepted, and what the state government has done to implement these recommendations. So a very important thing is that the State Finance Commission, they always work in tandem with the Central Finance Commission, and that is why you see their functions are quite similar to that of the Central Finance Commission. It is concerned regarding union and the states, and the State Finance Commission, it concerns itself with the financial relations between the state and the local bodies. So also the State Finance Commission, it has to make recommendations regarding the requirement of local bodies for meeting revenue expenditure in view of the need for generating surplus for capital investment, and also recommendations regarding the revenue resources of the local bodies for next financial years. Also, it has to suggest measures for the scope of better fiscal management in major components of recurring and non-recurring items of expenditure. And also it has to review the status of implementation of the regulations by the Central Finance Commission as well as the previous state finance commissions, and how, based on these recommendations, the local bodies have utilized their resources. So the State Finance Commission, it also reviews the functions of the Gram Sabha and also its linkages with NGOs as well as different line agencies and departments of not only their own state but of other state as well, and accordingly suggest necessary measures for democracy. So the first State Finance Commission of Punjab, they had the following objectives before making recommendations. The first objective was to provide adequate funds to the local bodies. The second one was to enable the local bodies to maintain essential services. And the third object was to create a financial surplus and correct the vertical and horizontal imbalances among the local bodies. And another objective before the State Finance Commission was to encourage fiscal responsibility and autonomy. These are some of the objectives. These were some of the objectives of the State Finance Commission of Punjab, and in order to charge its functions in a time-bound manner and make observations and recommendations on the basis of authentic facts, figures, and appropriate information, these State Finance Commissions, they make important recommendations. And in the state of Punjab, the State Finance Commission, it determines the procedure of the fiscal devolution in the state of Punjab, and it has also been entrusted powers of a civil code, under the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. And the State Finance Commission of the state of Punjab, they can summon and enforce attendance of witnesses, and they required the production of any document, and they can requisition any public record from any court or office. And the governor passes every recommendation made by the State Finance Commission under the Act together with explanatory memorandum as to the action taken. So we have discussed about the action taken report. The governor has to pass recommendations made by the State Finance Commission under the Act together with the explanatory memorandum as to the action taken thereon, which are to be laid before the legislature of the state. That has been already discussed. And in the report of the 15th Finance Commission, the total grants to the local bodies for 2020-2021 has been fixed at 90,000 crore rupees. And of this 90,000 crore rupees that are to be given as grants to the local bodies, 60,750 crore is recommended for rural local bodies, that is 67.5%, and 29,250 crore rupees for urban local bodies. So this allocation is 4.31% of the divisible pool. And this is an increase over the grants. So in 2019, it was 3.54% of the divisible pool. However, it has to 4.31% of the divisible pool. And these grants, they will be divided between the states based on their population and area in the ratio of 90:10. And these grants will be made available to all three tiers of the panchayat, that is village, block and district. And in this regard, joint efforts of political leaders, administrators and citizens, they will pave the way for timely implementation of the recommendations of State Finance Commission in the state, which is necessary for local bodies to perform effectively. So we have been discussing the State Finance Commission. And let us now discuss some of the concerns regarding the State Finance Commission. So we have discussed the functions and powers of State Finance Commission, and regarding the working of State Finance Commission, which are constituted after the expiry of every 5 years, these commissions, they are required to recommend the principles that govern the distribution of financial resources that we have already discussed between the state government and the body. So the function that is performed by the Central Finance Commission at the union level, the same function is performed by State Finance Commissions at the state level, and they have to recommend the principles that should govern the distribution of financial resources between the state government and the local bodies, that is the PRIs or Panchayati Raj institutions and the urban local bodies. So now let us discuss some of the concerns regarding their function. So one of the major concerns is that, which I have already discussed here, is that states have not been setting up their state finance commissions regularly as mandated. So that is a huge concern, and states are not submitting reports in time. And these reports, they lack proficiency also, and they have huge task of considering large number of local governments. So state finance commissions are overburdened, and they have to do a lot of work within a very short span of time. Hence, this is a monumental, gargantuan task that because the number of local governments, that is Panchayati Raj institutions and urban local bodies, they are increasing. And these State Finance Commission, they also face a very crucial problem of reliable data. It's very, very difficult to get reliable data. And also State Finance Commissions and local governments are seen to be of inferior constitutional status from the Union Finance Commission. And the 11th Finance Commission, in its report, it noted some of the features of State Finance Commission. It said that there is a lack of synchronicity in the periods covered by the reports as well as of the Finance Commission. And there is extreme diversity in approach in different states. There is no uniformity in the period that is covered, as well as the quality of the reports of different state finance commissions. And also what we observe is, what the 11th Finance Commission has observed is that there is a delay on part of state governments in finalizing the action taken reports. So the action taken reports that we have discussed regarding what the state governments have done to implement the recommendations of the State Finance Commission, they are not being prepared on time, and there is a delay that has been observed in different states regarding finalizing these action taken reports and placing them in the state legislatures. And a study of 20 states, it revealed that as far as the recommendations regarding devolution is concerned, it was more or less accepted by a large number of states without any modifications. However, the recommendations of the third State Finance Commission of Manipur, the fourth State Finance Commission of Rajasthan, the fifth State Finance Commission of Sikkim, and the fourth State Finance Commissions from Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal, they were accepted with some modifications. While the action taken report of the Gujarat government on its second State Finance Commission is silent on this issue. So we see that there have been instances where the recommendations of State Finance Commissions have been accepted but with conditions. And there are also instances, for example, that the fifth state recommendations of the fifth State Finance Commission of Kerala and fourth State Finance Commission of Maharashtra, they were totally rejected by the state governments. So it is not necessary that the recommendations are accepted. There are exceptions as well. But normally we see that the recommendations are accepted, and hence there have been recommendations. The Central Finance Commission has recommended that the State Finance Commissions, they should be strengthened. And the 14th Finance Commission, it analyzed the recommendations of the State Finance Commissions and felt that there is an urgent need for states to facilitate the effective working of State Finance Commission. And the 14th Finance Commission is also recommended that the state governments should focus on strengthening the State Finance Commissions and also make necessary arrangements for the timely constitution of State Finance Commissions, as well as for proper administrative support and adequate resources. The state governments have to ensure that these State Finance Commissions are provided proper administrative support as well as adequate resources so that they can function smoothly. And also, the state government has to ensure the timely placement of the State Finance Commission reports before the state legislature, as well as the action taken report has to be prepared on time. So these are some of the recommendations, how they can be made more effective. And in conclusion, we can see that finance is the fuel for the engine of administrative machinery, and the efficiency of local institution, it greatly depends upon its finances. That is why it is a very important thing to further strengthen these State Finance Commissions and to make certain permanent arrangements so that the financial position of local bodies can be strengthened and they can perform their constitutionally entrusted duties. So we have discussed the State Finance Commission in this class, how the relationship of the State Finance Commission with their respective states, and how the state government regarding devolution of resources as well as grants in aid to the local bodies, and how they suggest measures to improve the financial condition of local bodies. So we have focused in this unit on the origin, significance, composition, powers and functions, as well as working of the State Finance Commission. And we have seen that these State Finance Commission, they make valuable recommendations in most of the states. And these recommendations, which are very significant, they go a long way to strengthen the financial health of the local bodies. And these State Finance Commissions, their recommendations can only prove effective if they are substantially implemented by the state governments. However, we've seen that in many states, they are not implemented. So thank you. Namaste.